All right. Long time no see, guys. All right. We ready to go?
Yeah.
All right. Again, a lot of firsts going on as a head coach, but first one of these come out as a head coach was great to see our players out here. We had 7 guys out here today, I believe. Running, working out, lifting. They've been preparing for the last couple of months for this time, and really happy for them. And it's exciting to really see the future of what we want here and be able to develop our players the right way. And when it comes into the development, the whole development of a player, it really starts in what these guys are doing for us. These guys are scouting them as professionals, whereas in recruiting we scout players for ourselves in college, and that's the name of the game. It's you got to identify them. You got to first comes identification, right? Then you got to evaluate them, and then you got to find out how to recruit them, and and finally the acquisition and the signing of a player, and then the development of them. So really what the pro scouts and coaches are doing here now is no different than what we do when it comes to the recruiting and evaluating high school guys. And now it just kind of comes full circle back around with the development you have in your program with the player and how they end up here. So again, excited for these guys, happy to be out here with them, happy our coaches are able to be out here and be around the personnel that are here from the NFL, and look forward to seeing where these guys end up going, and hope them the best. So any questions you guys have?
Again, we've got mic for questions, so if you have a question, please. Kelly,
Sorry. Brent, just how important is it you guys had 2 guys in the combine, and this hasn't necessarily been a must-stop for every scout, but you have all the teams here today. Just how important is that for the health of the program to make this a bigger day in the future for Georgia Tech?
That is. It's what you want. And it's what you want with your players. It's what you want with you talk about the development of them and those things, but really it comes down to what they put on tape, and that's what they look at when they get the invites for the combines and those things, or how do they play, and how do they play as the season goes on, how do they play when they're banged up and tired, and people are beat up on the team, and can they play through the pain and play through the injury and really still be productive football players. So happy for those guys having that opportunity, and happy for Georgia Tech to be able to have those guys a part of our family and continue to be a part of our family.
Brent, I don't know how much you get asked this, maybe it's more position coach thing, but as far as Keon goes, what would you or do you tell scouts about him?
It really, whether it's Keon or any of the guys, it's really the same message. The one thing we want to make sure we are is transparent, and we want to make sure that we're transparent when we talk about our players, because there's a trust that's built over time, and majority of these guys that are out here, whether they're scouts or coaches, we all know these guys, and we've been around them for a long time, and they know who they can trust and not trust, and so we want to build that with them. And I talked to them this morning, and I talked to the staff about it as well, that we want to be upfront and honest with these guys, because that's where the respect comes, is through the honesty that you can have in a player, from player to coach, and from coach to scout, or coach to coach in that regard. So for us to be transparent and be completely honest with these guys, and thankfully these guys have given us nothing but positive things to say about them.
Hey, Coach, so just to kind of build on the last question, when you take a look at the physical attributes of Keon and Charlie Thomas too, just kind of how you think those guys kind of project to the next level as far as their attributes and abilities?
Yeah, I mean, the projections are really left up to you guys. I'm not really in the role of being able to project these guys. I know what they did for us. I know how they helped us. I know their size and ability traits and how they factor into what they're looking for in the NFL. But that's really up to each individual team where they see those guys. And that's where the NFL is so different. Because everything's slotted by round. So someone's ability might not necessarily equate with being in whatever round people think it might be. Right? But at the end of the day, it's what you're able to do when you get there, make a team, be in a camp, make a team, all right, and then be able to create some longevity for yourself in the NFL, and be able to get to that second contract.
Question.
Coach, you got players that are of a different types, physically. Is there some commonality between all of them? Maybe that's physical, maybe that's mental, but something that unites them. Some common characteristic they all have.
Yeah, well, when you're talking about anyone that has an opportunity to play in the National Football League, especially those that do, I mean, there's a sense of toughness about them. I mean, you have to have an elite level of mental and physical toughness, and you have to be able to sustain. I mean, they go into camp with 90 players on a team. They cut the final roster down to 53. So to be able to sustain throughout the off season, the training camp, the toughness of the grind of going in there. I mean, it's the biggest thing those guys all have is the stuff up here. All right, now everyone's going to slot with a certain height, weight, speed, size, ability. But there's a lot of guys that have had that have been one and done or quick and out in the NFL because they didn't have the mental characteristics that you have to have.
Next.
Yeah, Coach, could you discuss E.J. Jenkins and how he might convert to a tight end slot in the NFL?
Yeah, again, it's the projection part. That's not for me to decide. Again, but he was productive for us as a receiver. I think when you look at somebody like EJ, you can't just say, oh, well, his size makes him look like a tight end. I mean, he's had a lot of production as a receiver. So, there's a lot of big receivers in the NFL that play well, and then there's tight ends that are smaller than him that do well in the NFL. So, again, that's up to each individual team where they see him on their roster.
Do you have a favorite draft story from your time as a coach? You've obviously coached a lot of guys who've been drafted over the years.
Now I'm thinking back, gosh, I mean, a lot of great memories. It really is. It's a special time for these kids. Whether it's a position you coached, a position on your side of the ball, a position you win against every day, someone you recruited. It's good to see it come full circle for those guys from the evaluation, the recruiting process coming out of high school, then really to this part of it, the evaluation and the selection part of it. There's a lot of them. I wouldn't want to shortchange any of those guys, but there's a lot of good ones I'm thinking about. I know a certain really skinny quarterback out of Jacksonville, Florida, that we signed that ended up doing pretty well for himself on draft night. That was really good. I mean, just phone calls from the green room from guys when they're getting ready to go out there, and or their parents calling my wife, and they're doing their hair and getting ready to go to get dressed up. The guys that might have been no one recruited, been their only offer, it ended up being a high draft pick. I mean, it goes on and on, but it's a wonderful story that those guys are able to share when that night does come, when that day does come. And it could be even if they're a free agent selection on Sunday. At the end of the day, you've got an opportunity. You've created an opportunity for yourself, and it's an exciting time. But then it's time to get to work for them. So then even more excited when you see kind of what they're able to do in the long term when they get there.
For you, for Keon, what was his, I guess, most outstanding attribute in terms of what he contributed on the field?
I mean, he has a unique blend of speed and power for a man that size. I mean, I have no clue what any times are or anything out there, but I don't think I need a stopwatch or a time to see that's a big man running and looks pretty good doing it. So, but then you turn on the tape and you see what he did as the season went on when a lot of people were banged up and hurting, and he really elevated his game at that point in time, and especially knowing the type of practices that were taking place here with the physicality and the good on good and the competition that was taking place, but to see that out of him as the season went on, and really being able to use that as a measuring stick for our guys too, and to show them, look, there's a certain way to do things, and there's a right way to do things, and look what happens when you do it that way, and look what you're not going to get worn down, you're not going to get beat down. Matter of fact, look at him. I mean, he played his best football throughout that time.
Anything else from Coach Key? All right.
We had a hand over here.
No. That was saying I'm good.
Okay,
You guys good?
that's
All right, appreciate it,
Thanks,
guys.
Coach.
Go Jackets.